I wish we had a really cool musical intro, but we don't. No,
it still sounds like a hamster trying to do an impersonation of Immigrant Song.
I don't think so. I actually kind of like it. And the fact that it was only used sparingly made it, in the actual theme used only sparingly made it better.
You were not my son.
You've never been more correct. So we saw Wonder Woman. Ta-da! Feminism.
I don't think it was especially feminist.
No, I just...
In its construction, in that it's a female-led superhero film with an unapologetic like female society with with women sort of doing action shit, and it's not filmed from the quote-unquote male gaze. Yeah, basic feminism. But apart from that...
Well, honey, I think you're selling it short. There was one thing that you really can't deny about this movie. That's the fact that Batman wasn't in it.
Yeah, that was a good thing.
Except for, like, conceptually speaking.
I can understand why this is getting such rave reviews, because it is fucking refreshing to see an action film with a female lead, B, a superhero film with a female lead, C, a female-led superhero film that is not terrible, and D, one that does not sexualize the character at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I know there's a lot of people get annoyed at like terms like the male gaze and stuff like that, but it's a thing. It's you influence the director by choosing their angles, by choosing the shots they use. They portray how something is to the audience, and whether subconsciously. I have in most of the cases it's not deliberate, but basically a heterosexual male film director will want to make the attractive woman in their film look more attractive.
Is it like a gay male gaze?
Yeah, the male gaze is probably not a best term for it. Maybe it should be called the gynophile gaze or something. But
the horny gaze.
Yeah, you got a gay guy directing a film with shirtless guys, or with attractive men who are in states of undress. You get films like the 1313 series. I can't remember the guy who directed it, but he's this guy who does essentially shirtless teens going around and having, not teens, like 20-year-old guys, having some sort of supernatural story. And
also sex, apparently.
It's the gay male. Actually, there's almost no sex in these ones.
Oh, okay. So it's like it's implied?
Yeah, it's the gay, but that would be an example of the gay male gaze. It's... If you want to watch one of those films, it's basically that's how... he's not a good director, but like how a bad director...
It's not very good.
It's like a gay version of how a bad heterosexual male director sexualizes female characters. It's like that, but with men. It's just sort of... It might help you conceptualize what I'm talking about if you can see that sort of thing. But this one you got, I believe Patty Jenkins is heterosexual, so you got a heterosexual female director who is not sexualizing Wonder Woman at all. If this had been a straight guy directing it, it would not be the same thing. You
know one of my misconceptions, because of the trailer, I thought we'd be seeing a lot more of the wee little English secretary.
Yeah.
And she was barely in it. Like, I was already to be whinging about her. I was like, I'm the comic relief! But she was used just enough to be perfect. I was like, oh, I actually could have done with more of her.
Yeah.
A little bit more, not a lot, just a little bit more.
Reminded me of Darcy and Thor.
Yeah.
Patty Jenkins, who directed this, this is the first film she directed since Monster?
Oh, that's famous.
Not Monster. Was it Monster? She got multiple Oscars. I think maybe it was Monster. 8 years ago, it made a fuckload of money, and she didn't direct since.
Well, yeah, because you can afford to rest for a while after that.
No, she wasn't resting.
Be like, do you need to make some money? No, I'm good for a while.
She wasn't resting.
Oh.
Hollywood is shitty to female directors.
Oh.
And then even when she got the job here, they were like, oh no, this is a gamble. She's only directed a multiple Oscar-winning film with a small budget. Oh, this is such a gamble.
Well, it's making banks,
and
so...
Very few people gave a shit about the gambles of Colin Trevorrow, who directed Jurassic World. Can you think of anything else he directed?
I don't know. Honey, I don't know any directors.
Exactly.
Like, no, but you can't say, well, what is that? Cause I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't even tell you, like, famous people.
There were articles about how much of a, like, ooh, how brave giving her this job it was. And that sort of thing. Although it does happen with male directors on occasion. Like, I remember it being a gamble that James Gunn, for instance, was going to direct Guardians of the Galaxy.
And it paid off.
But not to the same degree as with like Patty Jenkins. I mean, she's an Oscar-winning director. She shouldn't be a gamble for a big budget film, and Hollywood can be very shitty to female directors.
That's probably true.
I mean,
I'm sure it's true.
She was originally supposed to direct Thor 2. She's one of the many directors who had a fight with Marvel over what they wanted to do. I don't know what her view for Thor 2 was, but she was replaced with Alan Taylor from Game of Thrones.
Oh. I don't know directors.
And that's part of the reason Natalie Portman didn't come back for Thor 3, because she really wanted to work with Patty Jenkins, and she was really pissed off that she got replaced.
Oh, that's good of her. Good on you, Natalie Portman. Write the show. But I thought it was good. Like I'm not like I feel kind of bad, and I felt like this about Ghostbusters too. Like I felt like I should be having like.
This is a better film than Ghostbusters.
No, I know, but like it's the same kind of like feeling. Like I left feeling like I didn't have this overwhelming like female cathartic response that apparently like all of my friends have on social media, and I kind of feel a little bit guilty about that. I'm like, oh, that was good. Well, certainly, like, I mean, there were parts that I was like, ooh, I'm gonna talk about that in the vlog. But it was good, it was entertaining, and I had fun, and there was some stuff I really liked, and some stuff I kind of didn't, but I'm not like, you know, I don't know, I just wish that I could have that response, you know, I wish that, like, a piece of media could mean that much to me, sometimes, you know?
Well,
do you ever feel that way? Well, because you consume so much media, you know, like, all the time.
Yeah, it takes a lot for me to stand up on my seat really excited about something, and generally it doesn't matter if it's man or woman doing it. It depends on whether it's something I've not seen before and done very well.
Something affects me if I connect with it, like, I mean, but so much that's nonfiction these days, like, so much it's documentaries, you know, but, I mean, I really enjoy Doctor Strange just because, as an academic, I felt like that kind of, like, I could relate, you know, that there's, like, a certain quality that you have to have when you really want something, like when she says to him, you know, Stephen, your intellect has brought you this far, but it can take you no farther. There has to be, and there it was like the ability to use magic, but like, you know, when you're going like for like a higher degree, like a master's or PhD, there's got to be something in you and determination, whatever that wants it and that drives you. And I connected with that, but I don't think that I had the kind of like religious cultural experience that so many people are having, and I kind of feel guilty about that.
The reason they're having it though is this shit I front loaded the review with about the fact lack of male gaze, the female director or female lead, that it's not bad. There's so many bad superhero films starring women. I can think of 2 good ones, and one of them is Zsa Zsa Zaturna.
If you haven't watched it, you should. You owe it to yourself.
So there is.
It's only half in Tagalog. So half's in English. Basically,
a lot of the people. This is just my guess, but a lot of people who are getting really, really, really excited about this, and it's a probably valid reason to get excited, but they're getting excited because of the cultural stuff that's surrounding it.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's a decent female-led superhero movie. They're getting to see something they haven't seen before. They're getting to see women are getting to see a female action hero depicted on screen the way that male action heroes are depicted, as in not there as eye candy for titillation for someone else.
See, I guess maybe it's just because I'm simple or something. Like, maybe, like, I identify with characters in a different way because, like, alright, I grew up with the original Star Wars movies, you know? Like, they affected my life to a great deal when I was a child, you know? But, like, seeing Rey, I was like, oh, yeah, oh, great character, oh, yeah, great movie, you know? But I still identified with Luke. Like, I still, like, identified, you know, with, like, Iron Man, you know, and with Captain America and stuff like that. Like, maybe it's just something wrong with me, you know, that I can find something akin in characters that you're supposed to emote for, you're supposed to care for, whether they're male or female. And I don't know, I feel kind of bad about that.
You've just named male characters, so maybe it's something else.
Well, I'm trying to think, like, no, I mean...
Omega's a dude.
No, like, She-Ra. Because let me tell you what about She-Ra, okay? She-Ra was fucking competent. She-Ra was, like, the only competent one. Like, because you had her little guy, her little ineffectual guy, little hippie guy, who was always noodling around.
The ears?
No, that was Orko. He was the
No, the Orko was the guy, the floaty guy.
No, I mean the human. Her little human friend.
Oh, okay. There's a heart. Archer.
Yeah, and then the little creepy guy, like, I hid in this episode. Can you see me now?
He had like the rainbow ears.
Yeah, not him, no. But then like her friend, the psychic, Jesus Christ. Okay, every single episode of She-Ra, she'd be like, gee, gee, you guys, don't do the stupid bad thing. And the psychic and her wee boyfriend were like, let's go do the stupid thing. And then She-Ra would have to be like, her and the horse. The horse is more competent than her friends.
We'll call her the Quick Wind. Is that the name? Spirit?
Yeah. No, but he became, like, you know how Battle Cat had an alternate...
Cringer became Battle
Cat. Yeah, but like, even her goddamn horse was smarter and more competent than her friends. So I identify with She-Ra sometimes about that.
That's fair enough.
Like, what is wrong with you people? Jesus Christ.
Well, that's fair enough.
If you thought that She-Ra's friends were incompetent, write the show. Comment below.
But
and like the Care Bears, because like sometimes the Care Bears were of indeterminate gender.
Yeah, they were all sort of androgynous. But whenever I'm saying about a lot of people's like of this film may well be connected with other things, you kind of bring yourself to the film you're watching.
This is true.
And so other factors are always going to have a...
Not really. You drugged me to see Batman v Superman. I didn't bring myself. I was drugged along.
Well, but your experience of watching Batman v Superman was partially formed by your experiences.
Yeah, well, that's true of anything.
Yes. So, a film having a particular context at the right time and place, or being something different that is special for them, will impact how people see a film. And it's not a bad thing. It's not saying it's any more false than someone who goes in there quote unquote objective, because you can't watch a film objectively. It's impossible. It's a work of art. No art can be reviewed objectively.
Oh, isn't that the whole point of Koyaanisqatsi? That it's
yes,
like,
it is almost entirely like that.
Interpret it the way that you want to. Or fall asleep, it's really boring.
If you want to, yeah.
What was that one that we watched on, like...
We watched Samsara.
Is that the one that's in amazing HD?
Yeah.
Or occasionally it's a sunshine, like, over the mountains, but then sometimes it's just a little kid looking at you like...
That's Samsara.
Why do you have those cameras in my face, white people?
Visually, Samsara is better than Koyaanisqatsi, but musically it's nowhere near as good.
I don't want to tell you. But so anyway, so let's get through the spoiler-free part first.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't know if this is someone mentioning it to me made me examine it, but some of the effects were not very good. The CGI was a little janky. No, like her lasso, I don't know, it just wasn't done very well. It looked like, you know, the old-timey tech where they would hand animate something.
It did look like a cartoon.
I don't know why that was.
And I get the feeling when they were using the lasso for huge, like, big action scenes with it, they didn't have a practical lasso and painted over. They were doing some sort of weird CGI physics thing, and it didn't quite look right. And the fact that it didn't have a sound.
Yeah.
There was a very low sound that you could hear in extreme close-ups, but if you ever watch the fan film Grayson, there's like one shot with Wonder Woman grabbing someone with the lasso, and it's got this lovely little laser like sound in the background, and it's like that. It would have sold the lasso a bit better if they had like a sound of some sort,
or even just like maybe like a prop, like one of those, like, you know, the things that cheerleaders use. Those.
Yeah, well, just talking about the sound thing.
Oh,
like,
no, I meant just for like.
For a practical reference, yeah, they should have had a practical. It looks like they didn't, but they might have. Like Mjolnir in Thor. Apparently they spent fucking months trying to work out how it would sound when in flight, because they knew
that kind of stuff's really cool.
If you couldn't believe that it sounded like it was actually like a magical thing flying, then you would drop the immersion. And this is kind of an example of if they'd fucked up Mjolnir's sound.
Yeah.
It's not something that you really notice consciously, but it's in the back of your mind. You didn't notice, but your brain did.
Also, they were really in love with bullet time. And don't get me wrong, I love bullet time. But there was one fight that was really cool. And it was cool, but they felt like every time she shifted to a new move, we needed to stop for bullet time.
Yeah.
And no, only use it a few times, then it's still special.
Yeah. In fact, none of the action scenes were particularly spectacular. I mean, they were all competent. They were fine.
Really good.
I'd put this on a level of medium to good Marvel movie in Phase 1, without the jokes.
Yeah.
You know, it's basically Captain America the First Avenger, but makes a little bit less sense.
In the war that time forgot. And I'll get to that. With
Thor as Captain America, if Thor was a woman who was really nice instead of boisterous.
Yeah.
So, and when I say it makes less sense than Captain America First Avenger, when we get into the spoilers, I will talk about that, because script-wise, this was fairly broken towards the end.
Although there was a really great moment that again we'll talk about spoilers in a second, where there's a big reveal and you hear the little kid go on the other side of the theater, and it was just as good as when we went to go see the Captain America triple bill, and that like 40-something mom who escorted her wee kids sat next to us because she wanted to be the cool mom and not sit next to her kids, and she hadn't seen Winter Soldier, and they were like, "It's Bucky Barnes." She goes, "Oh!" That was like a favorite.
That's as great as my mum's surprise whenever we watched Rogue One. Now, my mother had only seen the original trilogy like 20 years earlier and had seen episode 1, and she gave up in the prequels. So
we should have your mum in a backseat critique, but we'll have to subtitle her.
Yeah.
She has a very thick Scottish accent.
But I showed her Rogue One, and I discovered right towards the end when she was like getting all sort of flustered and confused and making noises that she honestly thought that Jyn Erso was Princess Leia.
Oh no.
And she had no idea who Bail Organa was, but she understood it was Jimmy. She was like, "That's Jimmy Smits. Why is he here?" It's like, I don't know how she got Jyn Erso into Princess Leia, but my mother managed it.
Because everyone has weird, crazy names in the Star Wars universe.
And because apparently all women are like, dark-haired white women.
Yeah. Unless they're like a Twi'lek or something. Or whatever the space pirate girl are.
Well, Twi'leks are the ones with the things coming out the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tentacles and the head tentacles.
Unless you've got head tentacles, you're white. That goes in a t-shirt. But the music was more competently done. Like I said, they didn't overuse the Wonder Woman theme in that.
They used it less in this than they did in Batman vs Superman, which is a fucking achievement.
So, and actually, you did, the first time she's on the cliff, like looking at her hands, you hear it slightly, and like, kind of like what they do with, like what John Williams does with like Luke's theme sometimes in Star Wars. It's kind of woven into the background of it, and that I caught that, and that was good. Like the part of the beginning, like on the island, that was colorful and vibrant and great. Yeah. We should have stayed there.
That was MCU's all fuck.
Yeah, that was really great.
Although the Amazons are a little bit less queer than they should be. They're just tiny inferences, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like, they decided that men were good for procreation, but unnecessary for pleasure.
He was like, what are you gonna do, really?
And the fact that the original Wonder Woman origin is expressed in the film, but then they change it for a new, much more heteronormative origin, the New 52 one, which is shit, because just like magic woman creating life out of clay, sort of like just the mother.
Well, it's not heteronormative because Zeus.
He just blasted her though with magic.
Give her sperm.
And in the original comics, the Amazons apparently a group of female gods, I don't know which ones, fashioned a woman out of clay and sort of took the souls of women who had been unjustly murdered by men and put them into these bodies and then gave them life, and that's where the Amazons came from. And in this one, it's just like Zeus is like, it's like, no, I'll create a group of women because I'm Zeus. It's just removing
that little sound effect.
It's removing the deliberate hyperfeminism that William Marsden deliberately put into Wonder Woman, because that guy was feminist. He was of his time, but he was still. There's
videos about it online.
He was extreme feminist for today.
He was like into BDSM and all sorts of things.
He was also polyamorous, but he was how do you put it? He probably even goes beyond feminist. He was female supremacist, which is just fascinating. But this one severely toned it all down and even got rid of a lot of the subtle bits of actual feminism that they could have had. Oh well.
But no, it was very lovely shot. Although I have some questions. Like, the island is protected except for it's just basically some fog that you can just sail right through and sure it's grand. Like, I thought you had to be worthy or something to... And then, if you leave the island, you can never come back. But apparently the Germans can just sail, aircraft carriers into it.
And sometimes it's daytime on the island and nighttime outside, and sometimes it's nighttime inside and outside. It makes no sense.
Unless glowing water, this.
I was thinking that Paradise Island, Themyscira, it was daytime all the time. That's what I was thinking until we saw it at night. It's like, okay, that
have to
wasn't
sleep
bad.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but they could sleep.
Maybe it's like one of those things like
sun.
Legend of Zelda, time is different depending on which part of it you're in.
Maybe.
Like how in Zelda 64, if you go to the graveyard, the closer you get to the Imperial family tomb, then a thunderstorm starts, right until it's pouring rain when you get there. So what I like to do is jump forward and back and make it just start and stop again.
Now
Who was your man who played the main man, Steve?
That was Chris Pine.
Okay. What do I know him from?
Captain Kirk in the new Star Trek films.
I knew his chin.
I saw someone on Twitter had really...
I'm rubbish at recognizing people.
Someone on Twitter had this image they took the screen grab of them having a discussion with their mother online about after seeing Wonder Woman, and this guy's mum was convinced that Chris Pine's character was Captain America, and Wonder Woman was part of the MCU.
Well,
I don't know how she got Captain America, especially considering it's World War One, and they both
because a lot of people, and that's what I was gonna talk about, and this is what was refreshing, and what made me want to see this movie from the trailer is the fact that everyone forgets about World War One, and it really annoys me because when I was in school and on the liberal East Coast, even, you know, we tended to skip World War One, and we never talked about it. Like, cause
I studied it. In the UK, you study it quite a lot.
Well, I reckon, because...
I spent several years studying it.
Well, it just never came up. Like, basically, we would do, like, the Underground Railroad and the Civil War unit, you know, and then we
the Civil War unit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like, no, it was
I will kill you.
No, it was like the thing, and then, you know, Western expansion and everything. And then we turn of the century, you might cover some of the great inventors, you know, and then you do, and then it was kind of like, and then there was the war. And now after the war, and we go right into the Harlem Renaissance and the Jazz Age and the Depression.
I didn't even know what the Harlem Renaissance was until Rap Critic and you mentioned it to me one MagFest.
It's stressed a lot, at least in my school.
It's very famous in America apparently, but I had no idea what the fuck it was.
Well, here's the thing.
Until like 2 years ago.
Here's the thing. It's one of those things that, like, if you don't teach it, it's like I will always support, like, oh, why should there be Black History Month? Because if you don't teach it, it'll get forgotten. Because you know how racist America is. Like, I'm glad we learned about the Harlem Renaissance.
Yeah, I'm not complaining about you learning about it. I'm not just saying that because it isn't because it's a black thing. It's because it's an American thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's an American thing that did not impact the world at large. I mean, when I was in secondary school, I studied some stuff in America, but it was to do with the Depression, Wall Street crash, because that's international.
Yeah. And
then the Vietnam War.
Well, see, that's the thing is, we did the Holocaust unit, and then we had basically, like, the last 2 weeks of school to go from, we never really did World War II, we just kind of skirted that, because everyone, oh yeah, we won and it's grand. We had about 2 weeks to get from then to, like, the 90s. Mm-hmm. We never talked about Korea. The only thing I knew about Korea, for the Korean War, I mean, for, you know, most of my life, came from the syndicated television show MASH. I knew nothing about Vietnam. Like, I knew that my dad had been in basic training during Vietnam. I know that he had friends who died. They went off to Vietnam and died. But, like, I mean, there was a girl in my class that her father had fought in Vietnam. And, you know, one of the guys who worked at my summer camp, you know, he had taken, like, a lot of shrapnel wounds in his face and he had a Purple Heart. You know, but, like, we never talked about it. And that's the thing about the Great War. It was called the Great War, the war to end all wars. And I wanted to know. I had to do so much independent research.
I'm thinking about the history that I was taught, because...
I think we're embarrassed because we stayed the fuck out of it, and we shouldn't have. We should have gotten involved.
I'm thinking the reason I studied those things I just mentioned, you know, World War One, Vietnam, Depression, stuff, probably because we were in Northern Ireland, and so they wanted to avoid British history after partitioning, and they wanted to avoid anything that could be sectarian in the context of Northern Ireland. So yeah, wanted to avoid generally as much of anything connected to Ireland as possible, or the UK.
Guess what, kids? The Jazz Age. But no, and the thing is that, like...
I knew a lot about the Depression as a teenager.
You should have asked my grandmother. She lived through it.
Well, I will get a time machine and go back and give myself your contact details, shall I?
She passed away in September. Although I did talk to her, like, we had a nice visit for several hours before I moved over here, and she was telling me all sorts of stuff about when she was a kid. But my original point was the fact that, like, I mean, World War II, we still have people around who fought in it, we still have people around who remember it, but the Great War, everyone that fought in it, I think it's confirmed now, the last veteran has passed away. And so, I know that it's not authentic to the comics, but setting it, you know, in that setting, it was really good because, you know,
there's a great setting.
There's a scene where they kind of liberate a Belgian village, and, you know, that night, you know, people are just, you know, some people are in the pub, some people in the street, some people are, Diana makes fun of them for not really dancing, just swaying. And there's like, your man singing in the background. And like, I got this, I get like kind of flashes of inspiration of themes sometimes. And I could, imagine like one of the children who was running around in that scene, then telling, I mean, obviously spoilers, we know what happened to that village, but like telling, their grandchildren, and that was during the war, and I'll never forget. Mother didn't even make us go to bed that night. We all just ran around, and the soldiers who had liberated us stayed for the night, and like that kind of like remember that time. I don't know. It's like, especially seeing her in the picture with the other, like the DC's version of the Howling Commandos. It's just, I like the fact that
two of them are entirely useless.
They are, but they're fantastic. I think I like them better than the Howling Commandos.
We should jump onto the spoiler section.
Alright, so spoilers.
We're about 25 minutes
You've been warned.
Like the commandos. Okay, you got the Scottish guy who is a sniper but can't shoot. You've got the Native American guy who can use smoke signals and can find cars. In a car right next to them, there's a pile of cars. I didn't even break into it. It's just like, oh look, I looked 90 degrees to my side and there's a car. And there is the Indian guy who's good at being an Indian stereotype and with a straight face.
I thought that he was supposed to be like Pakistani or something. I didn't know he was supposed to be Indian.
India and Pakistan were the same country
yes,
at this point in history.
Yes, I know, but like but the two peoples, if you say that to them, they'll be like, "Let me tell you what."
And I'd be like, "Let me tell you what. This is World War One. You didn't partition until 1947."
Well,
I
liked him because at first I was ready to be like, "Oh no, awkward ethnic stereotype." And then, like, you find out, no, that was just a thing. He's got.
He's the only useful one in the entire group.
He was fantastic. She was like, well, what about you? At first I thought you were just a liar. He's like, actually, I will be frank with you. I wanted to be an actor. I love acting. And she's like, oh, that's great. He's like, I didn't want to be a soldier, but I am their own color. And I was like, oh, he has depth. He does. And even the Scott had depth because he had PTSD.
They were useless though as a military. The Howling Commandos at least blew shit up.
Yeah, it's true.
They were good, and with these guys it's just like, oh look, two functionally useless guys.
They were good at infiltrating.
So you got one functionally useless guy, one who's good at smoke signals. So he's good at being stereotypical and finding cars.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, is this like? But here's the thing though, like. Okay, so this is like the 19-teens, so he looks like he's like in his 30s?
Yeah.
We're assuming he's in his 30s. So he was born probably at the end of Western expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah, he might have been born not on a reservation and saw that whole thing happening.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't decide, is this problematic? Is this a racist depiction? And then I realized, no. You know what? It's not. Because, like, stereotypes come from somewhere, and I'm definitely sure
smoke signals are a thing.
Yeah.
But it's like the only useful thing he does in the entire film, apart from turn his head 90 degrees and see a car, is use smoke signals to tell.
And he like smuggles them supplies, and he's obviously known and respected.
Oh, he's carrying supplies.
No, he's known when they get to the trenches, everyone's like, "Oh my God, the Chief's back!" And people are like, so he's known and respected in the trenches.
Yeah, but he doesn't do anything towards the greater cause of stopping the bad guys. In the same way that Ewan Bremner is the Scottish guy, he's just there to be colourful and to have PTSD.
Yeah, sure.
He's meant to be the great sniper, but he can't take a shot. I mean, he might have got a shot off at the end of the film, but it was so dark and the 3D was crap, so it was hard to tell.
I took the fact that he was boasting. That he's like, oh, I'm a really great sniper.
So why did Chris Pine bring him along? Chris Pine could have been like, you know what? I'm sure I could find some soldiers who can actually shoot in Belgium.
Maybe, like...
Instead of paying someone to come over.
I don't know. If anyone knows, if anyone is like a DC Master of Lore, comment below.
Howling Commandos were better.
But these guys had heart.
Especially because they had fucking
I
Falsworth.
Was ready for them to be killed, and then they weren't, and I was happy.
No, that's fine. I mean, they weren't terrible. It's just like a bunch of them were functionally useless in the film. They were there to be entertaining, and that was it.
Yeah. Another thing, I mean, you said it, and once you said it, I saw it. The Naziing up of the Germans. So, like, can we at least just wait 20 years? Come on now.
Yeah.
Leave them alone.
That really bothered me. World War I. Okay, World War II, it's obvious who was on the good side in that war. Most wars aren't like that. World War I's not like that. There is a really good case to be made that the UK and US were on the bad side in World War I. I have no idea, but it's so complicated because it's a fucking war, but the idea at World War One, treating them like they're fucking Nazis. I know that in this film it was like this certain group who were evil, but still.
But you don't even have Hydra to fall back on.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, they're probably in oh, wait, that's MCU.
Yeah, and that was just bad. That was not... And that's one of the many parts of this film that only makes sense if, spoiler, 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 if the original idea that Ares was Danny Houston in disguise, that was the only way it would make sense. Ares, Nazifying up the guys, coming up with his gas-based super weapon, which will kill his people just as much as everyone else's, and taking crazy German
Dr. Poison.
cocaine, shit. All this stuff only makes sense if he is actually Ares, and then he's not. So what you have is this crazed German who is basically acting like a Nazi 30 years early, taking crazy future cocaine, which gives him super strength. And
but
then...
just for like 2 scenes, though.
I know. It's like... That is a far better weapon to use against the Triple Entente than using the fucking gas, because gas in World War One was notoriously terrible for aiming.
Because one wrong breeze just blows the whole thing back into your trench.
A different kind of wrong breeze would dissipate it. It was fucking terrible. And the original, the theory that one of them came up with in this, of course, Ares will want to release this super gas and kill both sides. That makes fucking sense.
Also, I didn't like how, Dr. Poison, and she has this whole great mask thing going on, and it's, super creepy. But she's not very fleshed out.
Yeah.
Huh. I was ready for, I was ready for a few tropes, I was ready for the chemist who wanted to change the world, but not like this,
what do you call him?
Like the person who actually,
I forget his name.
In his lab, right?
The German scientist who did all this stuff, and he was Jewish, and I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
God,
we were thinking of the same episode of Twisted Patrol.
Fritz Haber.
Yes. I was ready for that trope, and then now that they've realized the worth, he or she is being held against his will and forced to science for the bad guys. I was ready for that, and I was ready for the hellbent, I will destroy the world. But she was neither of those things, but then...
She's just like, meh, take it or leave it, destroy the world, I don't care.
I thought, okay, maybe they're going for I'm just here for the science, I'm completely, lawful neutral, I don't care. But that really wasn't brought across either. She was just kind of there for no reason. I'm like, maybe this is... Yeah. She's going to be later, but then... Yeah. World War I was a long time ago. I don't know.
And then they bring in Ares is actually David Thewlis, who is this peace-looking for English guy. But he's been dissipating himself and sort of whispering into people's ears in order to create weaponry. So why does he need to have a physical body pretending to be this English guy? Why is he already, by the time the film begins, why is he ingratiating himself in the British, looking after peace, if he can just go around and then, do his plans by talking to people?
Well, I was thinking about that, and the only thing that I could think of was that he was playing the long con, that he wanted to arrange the armistice while stoking these folks to say, hey, will they do something? And then, waiting for, and everything is at peace. Now they're like, no, motherfuckers, ultra gas.
That's possible.
Because his whole thing is, I just told them about it. I just gave them the inspiration. They chose to use them. So I think he was playing some kind of free will kind of seesaw thing. I don't know.
Well, he wanted to destroy the entire world.
He just wanted to destroy humanity. He loved the world.
Sorry.
And I'm with him.
The film makes sense up until the point when you reveal that Danny Houston is not Ares. After that, it really needed a separate rewrite after that to clarify stuff afterwards to what the fuck was going on with Thewlis.
If your man knew that Diana could walk in the gas and not die, why didn't he be like, look, save Ares for later. You are the one who can do that. I don't understand why people sacrifice themselves in movies when there's a perfectly good other option. Yeah. I threw the what is it? Kryptonite staff in the thing. Oh no, I almost drowned getting it. Stop it! Let the superheroes do it, mortals. You just...
Yeah. And there was... mine's gone completely blank now. Mm-hmm. There was... a lot of shit like that. It needed another rewrite. I'm going to kick myself because I'm forgetting because we're almost out of... This thing's almost out.
Well, here, I'll hit it then. To
No. We have like another minute, but
Right.
I want to try and remember what I was going to mention. It was something deeply important.
about how mortals should just chill. The thing with kryptonite.
No.
Diana could have done it because she's.
Why the fuck could she kill Ares? Okay, Zeus was killed. All the other gods were killed by Ares. Ares is the god of war, physical combat. Why the fuck could she, who has just discovered that she is a quote unquote god, who is using powers that she didn't know able to defeat Ares? Ares should maybe defeat him in combat, but kill him no fucking way.
No, I know how. That's like what makes her the god killer. No, it's her power to. You see what she was doing? He threw everything he had at her. She absorbed it and was able to redirect it back.
And why the fuck couldn't Zeus do that? Sorry, Zeus better than demigod.
Well, because it's that thing where like the child must always. That happens a lot in Greek myths, where like basically like if your father's like
once they grow up, they do that. Once they grow up and knowing what they are and they train for it, they become great. With this one, it's just a case of, it goes, oh, by the way, you're a god. Yeah! Powers.
Well, a lot of people said that about Rey. Like, how come she can all of a sudden, use the Force?
She did take longer than Luke to learn shit. I don't know, Luke took longer. I don't know, but we're almost out. It's good. What do you think?
I thought it was good. If you like it, go good on. Don't let our little nigglings, distract you. If you had an experience, good for you. It was good. It was a good movie. It wasn't perfect. It had some issues, but I mean, I'm glad we went. So.